Good afternoon, everyone. We're here today because Parliament has a responsibility to keep Canadians safe. And right now, Conservatives in the House are choosing to delay public safety. We've heard them day after day, week after week, month after month, talk about extortions, talk about child abusers and exploitation. Yet, they choose to delay measures that will help in these types of cases. Bill C-2, the Strong Borders Act, includes essential lawful access updates that police services across Canada have been calling for years. Right now, if a parent notices that their child is chatting online with someone claiming to be another child, but upon further investigation sees explicit messages and photos that could amount to sexual abuse material, that parent can have the information, the IP address, and everything they need to take to the police, yet the police still does not have the proper authorities to be able to act quickly. Right now, we also see that if a Canadian is being extorted by a criminal organization, the police also cannot act quickly enough on the phone numbers that they are being extorted from. This is completely unacceptable. Lawful access tools would give the police what they need to go after extortionists, child predators, and organized criminal networks, evolving the way in which they commit crime with new technologies. These tools are not about expanding police powers. They are about making sure that law enforcement can keep up with the way criminals, especially extortionists, child predators, and transnational organized crime networks operate in 2025. And police leaders could not be clearer. The Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police has said, Ontario's police leaders continue to call on Parliament to move forward without delay on Bill C-2. Currently existing federal legislation remains inadequate in addressing evolving public safety needs, and as transnational criminal organizations continue to exploit gaps in legislation. They've warned us, technology has completely changed how criminals operate. As the OACP President, Chief Mark Campbell put it, we need 21st century tools to investigate 21st century crimes. Always with strong judicial oversight and respect for Canadians' privacy rights. Retaining modern and advanced lawful interception tools is indispensable for law enforcement. The Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police and the Canadian Police Association have also echoed this urgency. They've stated plainly that Bill C-2 contains the lawful access updates that are necessary to allow police to collect data and intercept communications to investigate modern, technology-enabled crimes, to protect victims, and to hold offenders to account. They have also made it extremely clear that these tools are not warrantless surveillance. They are used with judicial authorization and clear legal thresholds, including modernized production and preservation orders, clarified duties for surveillance providers, and access to basic subscriber information only on judicial order with strong safeguards. The National Police Federation has also said that Bill C includes two important updates that reflect long-standing calls from law enforcement. They said, we are encouraged by provisions that strengthen lawful access to digital evidence. So let's be clear about what is happening. Police across this country are asking Parliament, pleading with Parliament to act. Canadians who are being extorted, threatened, trafficked, and targeted online cannot afford another month of political games. And yet, the Conservatives continue to block, stall, and delay these measures, while criminals continue extorting Canadians and child predators prey on our children. Bill C-2 gives police the tools they need with oversight Canadians expect: judicial authorization, clear legal thresholds, strict limits on what can be accessed and when, and no warrantless surveillance, full stop. This is responsible, balanced, and necessary. So today we're urging all members of Parliament, listen to the police associations, listen to victims, Listen to the evidence. Put aside the politics. Pass Bill C-2 immediately. Canadians deserve a justice system that keeps pace with modern crime. And our government will continue doing everything in our power to make this happen. Now I'll turn it over to the Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Ruby, and thank you for your advocacy and your work. Let me just frame the situation with respect to lawful access. Canada remains the only Five Eyes country not to have a lawful access regime. In fact, our laws are at least 30 years old, and we risk being left far behind if we don't have a lawful access regime that speaks to the moment. We know the impact of technology. Each and every day, AI, as well as other technological advances, really make it more and more difficult for law enforcement to do their jobs more effectively, essentially around investigation. Whether it is a call for extortion, on extortion, that people in Surrey or Brampton or Edmonton receive, or it's about childhood predators who prey on young children through the internet. Our laws are inadequate. And this is why we included lawful access regime within Bill C-2. Unfortunately, we did not get the support from the Conservative Party to advance this. And what we're calling on today, and incidentally, we'll be hosting the G7 Home Ministers meeting by the end of this week, and what I'm asking our colleagues opposite is to step up. Let's forget the rhetoric. Let's forget the name-calling. Let us just work together to make sure that an important element of what law enforcement is asking for, what advocates for children are asking for, is to pass legislation that has lawful access as a central point of that legislation. There's work to do. We've always said, Minister Fraser has always said, I've said it, Mr. MacKinnon has said it, everyone here have said, that we're willing to make sure that the language that's in the legislation is strengthened. We know it's not perfect, but we also know that we have a process that can make it even better. And that is the call that I'm making today. Let's forget the excuses. Let's make sure that we're working in collaboration, because that's what Canadians expect. That's what they demand right now. As people are extorted, each and every day we're hearing stories. We're hearing it in the House. We're hearing it from our communities. As these are occurring, let us step up and do the right thing. And this is my call to our colleagues in the Conservative Party. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. Merci, Madame la Ministre et collègues qui sont préoccupés en la matière. Donc, pour résumer, on veut être très clair sur la situation. Les services policiers partout au pays demandent au Parlement, supplient le Parlement d'agir. Les Canadiens qui sont victimes d'extorsion, de menaces, de traite de personnes ou qui sont ciblés en ligne ne peuvent pas se permettre un mois de plus de jeux politiques venant du Parti conservateur. Et pourtant, ils continuent de bloquer, de retarder et de faire obstruction à ces mesures, pendant que des criminels continuent d'extorquer des Canadiens et que des prédateurs d'enfants s'en prennent à nos enfants. Le projet de loi C-2 donne aux policiers les outils nécessaires avec les mécanismes de surveillance que les Canadiens exigent. Un respect pour notre charte, l'autorisation judiciaire, des seuils juridiques clairs, des limites strictes concernant ce qui peut être consulté et quand, et aucune surveillance sans mandat, point final. C'est responsable, ces deux, c'est équilibré, ces deux, c'est nécessaire, ces deux. Nous demandons donc aujourd'hui à l'ensemble des députés, écoutez vos policiers, les associations policières, écoutez surtout les victimes, écoutez les faits. Mettez la politique de côté, adoptez le projet de loi C-2 immédiatement. Les Canadiens méritent un système de justice qui suit le rythme des crimes modernes. Et notre gouvernement continuera de faire tout ce qui est en notre pouvoir pour que ce soit le cas. Let's be clear. The Conservatives have failed on lawful access. They're divided on lawful access. Many of them regret not supporting lawful access. If you ask individual Conservatives, they will tell you that they regret not supporting lawful access. Yet, they get up in the House of Commons and complain about extortion, yet deny the police, deny Parliament the opportunity to pass the very measures that would help in solving this problem. That is hypocrisy. They are trying to put a smokescreen between them and their division on this issue. It's time for Mr. Poilievre to revise his position, to get the whip off of these members who support lawful access, and to tell the people of Canada that he agrees with the government and wants to give our police the tools to deal with extortion and child predators. Thank you very much.
Minister Anandasangaree, how many guns were collected in the Cape Breton pilot out of the 200? Your department won't say.
Thank you for that question. As you know, the pilot was undertaken in Cape Breton over a 3-week period. That period has closed. We're analyzing the results of the pilot. By all accounts, the technical capabilities have been satisfied, and we are looking forward to rolling out a program across Canada over the coming weeks.
Local reports and government sources say there is very little uptake. We've heard as low as 10 to 22. We've heard 26. Everyone's saying it's below 15%. How can you expect this program to work on a national scale if no one is giving in their guns?
Well, at the appropriate time, I will be sharing the data with you. Right now, we are completing the analysis of the pilot program itself to make sure the technical capabilities are met. That is essentially the reason why we had a pilot. It was over a 3-week period, and we will, in short order, come back to you with the results and our next step towards the compensation program.
Minister, what's an example of, in your mind, of acceptable lawful access?
Look, lawful access is a broad concept, and it is broad depending on where you are. My expectation is that we can have a lawful access regime that many in the civil liberties space will accept, that many within the those who advocate for against childhood sexual exploitation, for example, or other victims groups can accept, and a regime that is practical and that can work for law enforcement. So let me just say as an example, somebody calls me and on a phone call threatens me with the blocked ID number. Right away, the ability of law enforcement to get basic subscriber data, as in for that person to go and say, does this telephone number belong to company X or Y, you will need to get a warrant. What lawful access, the way we have it, will enable the law enforcement to seek what company, for example. They can go to company X and say, does this number associated with your company? And if they say yes, then the judicial warrants kick in. Just going back, 20 years ago, we had a book called Bowers. It may still be available in our local library. If somebody called me from a phone number, I can go to Bowers, open the book, look at the phone number, look at the address, look at the name, and go and knock on their door. That is no longer the case. Technology has advanced far greater. So in a context like extortion, this would be acceptable. But I don't want to set the limits of liberty, right? What I think we need to do is have this issue studied by our committee. There's an NCCOP report, unanimous, involving all the political parties, that calls for a lawful access regime in Canada. I do think we could do both. We can give law enforcement the right tools, at the same time have the right safeguards in place. And as a government, we're very open to ensuring that balance is there. And that's why we're really calling upon the Conservatives to help us advance this legislation.
When do you think lawful access goes too far?
Can I say one thing here? The regime we have today is unacceptable. So I'd like to share, some examples so that I can bring the issue to light. I find that there's not been a lot of coverage on extortion, but you've definitely been hearing about it in the House. That's because many of our communities are suffering from these cases. And what's unacceptable right now is it taking 6 months for the police to be able to get judicial authorization, to be able to connect a phone number to someone who's extorting an individual in my riding who has been out of their home because their home has been shot up and it's dangerous for their kids to live there. They can't go to school in a regular routine. They can't operate their business, and that's unacceptable. And I believe in Canada, our law enforcement should have the capabilities of being able to track down violent criminals such as these. So that's what's unacceptable, and that's the issue we're trying to address. But the Conservatives have been preventing us from being able to provide law enforcement with the tools that they need in order to tackle these cases. That's unacceptable to victims. That's unacceptable to people in my riding.
When do you think lawful access goes too far?
Look, if somebody, for example, without judicial authorization, if a lawful access regime enables law enforcement to go through somebody's browsing history, for example, that would be, in my opinion, outside of the scope of this legislation. And in my opinion, that would not be the type of access that Canadians would accept, because we respect privacy rights. And in very narrow circumstances where lawful access may be necessary, it needs to go through a judicial process with judicial oversight. And that's what this legislation encompasses. It is not a perfect piece of legislation, so we are open to feedback from our partners, from civil liberties groups, from other entities that may have an interest in this area, and we will work across party lines to make sure that we have consensus on having a lawful access regime that is acceptable to Canadians.
Ministers, behind you, you actually have MPs who have raised concerns about meeting with Narendra Modi, concerns about Chinese interference. A bill that has passed with unanimous consent is Bill C-70 in regards to the creation of a foreign influence registry. Why hasn't that been created yet if your government is so keen and so committed to fighting transnational repression and protecting human rights?
I've been very clear on a number of occasions that the name will be coming forward very shortly, in short order. We have done the work. We have undertaken the search. As you know, the Bill 70 requires us to have consultations with the opposition, and I can assure you that over the coming weeks we will be coming forward with a name. Even today I had conversations about this, and we hope to have the name available as soon as possible.
What is the delay? You would think that something with unanimous consent, given at a time in which we're in a trade war with the U.S., we're trying to expand trade relations with countries which are questionable in terms of human rights record, you would think that this would be a priority for your government.
This is an absolute priority for us. That's why we were able to pass C-70 last year. The individual who will be tasked with this will have a very consequential role in defining and ensuring the establishment of this registry and the reporting mechanisms. So we wanted to have someone with impeccable record, and we are very confident that the name that we will put forward will have that type of reputation. So I look forward to bringing the name forward in very short order.
Minister, I have a question that's completely unrelated, sorry, to my colleagues here. The Senate introduced amendments to Bill S-2 yesterday that eliminate the second generation cutoff from the Indian Act. Is that something that you support as your former job?
I'm speaking as the House Leader. I'm aware of the amendments in the Senate. I don't know if they've passed third reading yet, but if
They went through committee.
They went through
Not
committee,
through,
so they'll have to obviously, we'll see the results of the deliberations of the full Senate on that bill, and we'll take up the version of the bill that gets to the House of Commons. We'll obviously be consulting with the relevant ministers on that.
Minister Anandasangaree, is there a disagreement within all the parties about the names that you might be putting forward for the foreign agent registry? What's the problem? Why is it taking so long?
Well, I think I've highlighted the opportunity we have. We are going to be coming forward with a name very shortly.
Back to the lawful actor.
Is
that for the end of the year?
I hope to do that sooner.
Back to lawful access. When it comes to encryption, what are you asking telecoms to hand over? Because it's not just criminals who use encryption, right? Like regular, everyday Canadians encrypt messages all the time for perfectly innocent reasons.
Okay. So lawful access measures are in order to help police eliminate suspects or to be able to confirm suspects of a crime, right? Police do not have the time to be going around. They can barely manage their investigative caseload at this time. But what is delaying a lot of these cases is the obstacles that they have to go through and the delay that they have to go through. So, what I think has delayed this bill and what has caused the Conservatives up until now to oppose it is a lot of misinformation and fear that is spreading through communities about lawful access. But like the minister has mentioned, we're far behind other countries on this issue, and it's becoming very difficult for us to even keep up and participate with transnational organized crime that operates, in many different countries when we don't have the tools, or our law enforcement doesn't have the tools that they need in Canada. And so that is what we're talking about. We're talking about eliminating suspects. We're talking about catching criminals. We're not talking about, reading someone's private messages and their data. We're trying to connect phone numbers to names and addresses, and then judicial authorization would have to get involved even further in order, if that person was a suspect, and we needed further information. So it's not about encrypted, data or information. It is about connecting a name or an IP address to a an IP address or a number to a name and an address. That's all this is about.
We have time for one more.
Minister Anandasangaree, can you give us a little sense of the level of cooperation between Canada and the U.S. in light of today's arrests? 7 Canadians and a group led by Ryan Wedding. What kind of information did we provide, or is the U.S. primarily responsible for this break in the investigation today?
Well, you'll note that Commissioner Duham was in Washington today as part of the announcement. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police executed, I think, a number of raids within Canada, and they arrested 7 Canadians. There's been tremendous cooperation between Canadian law enforcement and U.S. Law enforcement. When Minister Fraser and I were meeting with Secretary Bondi back in the summer, she highlighted some of the major successes, including what was pending, which was announced today. I believe this speaks to the operational realities that exist within Canadian and U.S. law enforcement agencies, and the tremendous long-standing cooperation that has led to the work, including the arrests that were made today. I believe that RCMP, as you know, is one of the finest, if not the finest law enforcement agency in the world, and their level of involvement in this cannot be underestimated. They have been an integral part and a partner to work with the U.S. law enforcement. So I will let Minister Duham speak in greater detail on the operational successes, but it is significant that a leader of a Canadian police, national police, federal police agency is standing at the same press conference with Secretary Bondi.
Thank you, everyone. That's all the time we have.
Thank you.